for joining us. We're going to go through a couple of things today, and we're gonna have 3 segments to the demo today and discussion. So be great for we'll pause at the end of each of these 3 sections for questions. So we want to start out with a little bit of a discussion about the business case for standalone org charts and set it and forget it, and how that's now enabled in Organimi with some of the new SSO features. We're going to show how to integrate with a SAML-based SSO provider to provide default sharing of charts. So a lot of longtime Organimi users always complain that they have to add people or invite people to view the charts on a regular basis, and that kind of goes away now if you use an SSO-based provider for access. And then we'll just show some of the more advanced features around organizational planning. So once you have charts that are synced both from your directory system or from your HR system into Organimi, access is granted to everyone who has been provisioned the app automatically. Then you can create copies of the chart, share them privately, do some planning, and then make those updates back in the directory system. So we'll show all 3 of those things today. In the first demo, we just really want to talk about this set it and forget it concept. So for a long time, we've had the concept of integrating with your HR system or your directory system if you use Google Workspace or Azure Active Directory or some of the other providers like Jump Cloud or Okta or things like that. You can bring the chart in because that is your system of record in your company. So you can integrate with that system and automatically create the chart in Organimi. So now that we've added SAML-based SSO and access to Organimi can be provisioned based on SSO, you can set the access to that chart to be default to anyone who has been allocated the app. So you really spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes setting that up, which we're going to kind of walk through today. And then you can kind of forget about it, and it's just always updated and everyone has access. So that's kind of what we want to talk about in the business case. When one of the reasons we started the company is I worked as a consultant for a bit, and every new company I would go to or join, I would always say, do you have an org chart? And they'd be like, I think there's one around here somewhere, but it's not in date. It's out of date. So one of the issues with org charts is that they're always out of date. You create them once, twice, 3 times a year for planning or for compliance reasons, and then they're hard to maintain and they quickly go out of date. And that's one of our main goals at Organimi, is to allow you to have org charts that are always available, always in date. And we wanted to kind of show you that the business case now for this is pretty straightforward. 20 minutes, 30 minutes of setup, and then it's always there for new hires, for everybody to see the org chart. So to start this off, the first part of the demo is going to be basically bringing the chart in from your directory system, like Active Directory or Google Workspace or Google Sheets, or you can always set it up with your HR system through an SFTP integration. We just recently added some new integrations like Okta and Jump Cloud and People HR, and we have a couple more underway. But that's kind of the idea where your source of who reports to whom and what they do, we want to bring that into the org chart automatically. So I'm going to show you that in the first part of the demo, and then in the second part of the demo, I'll show you how to set up the SSO piece. And just to announce, because we use this fictitious company called Zengario, and I'm going to play the roles of 3 or 4 different people. So Nancy Nielsen is the IT director. She'll be doing most of the work. And then Abby Armstrong is the CEO. Benny is her assistant. And then Gordon Gulliver is just one of the employees and accounts payable. And in the last scenario, we're going to show him getting promoted. And then we'll show a new hire and their access. But most of the time will be Nancy. And so if we start out in our Organimi, just one thing. We start out here in our Organimi system. We're Zengario.corp. We don't have any charts. We don't have any people. Just Nancy and Abby, who's the CEO, have access to the chart. And so we want to build the chart. We want to have an automated integration. So we're going to pull that in from Okta. We'll be using Okta as an example, but if you use Azure Active Directory or Google Workspace, these capabilities are all available through those tools as well. So Nancy's our admin, and the first thing Nancy needs to do, going to the admin page, you can see that in the dashboard, there's there's all the people here. So there's 50 people. And we want, if we look at Gordon Gulliver, for example, in their profile, they're the accounts payable clerk. And the important thing here is they have an employee number and a reports to ID. So the manager ID is who they report to. And that's what we use to build the chart. So we want to import this into Organimi. And the way we do that is with an API key. So we created an API key. Before I do this, let me just show you what that looks like in Organimi. So we just go back here and we want to do an integration, right? So we'll do an integration. We have a couple of different options here, but Okta is what we're choosing today. And it is going to, sorry, I've already got this connected. So I'm going to disconnect this integration and I'm going to start a new one here just for the demo because I did a practice earlier. So the thing we need from Okta is the Okta domain and the API token. And these are really simple to get from your Okta administrator, can pull these up. So the domain is always shown here in the dropdown, and there's even a copy to clipboard piece for it. So we'll grab that, copy that to Organimi, paste it in here. And then our API token, we'll jump back over and we'll create the new API token here. These are created based on the access that the person creating it has. So Nancy is a super admin in Okta. So sometimes people want to create specific users for these kind of integrations, but we'll just show the basics here. So we're going to create a token. We're going to call it Organimi demo. And this is the value, the token value. This only gets shown here. So we'll copy it to our clipboard and we'd copy it to our password keeper or somewhere like that where it was secure until we got it set up. Sorry, back in Organimi. We'll paste it in here. And now that's kind of all there is to it to do the connection. And now we'll set up the chart integration. So we've got that connected and we're going to pull in the chart. So this is going to be our main company chart and it's synced. So we'll keep it in sync. We click setup here and this is going to take us into the integration screen. So this will connect. And now you see we have found 50 users. We can exclude users if we have consultants or things we don't want to carry through. There's some auto build options. For example, I'm going to automatically create assistant roles by name. And then these are the fields. If you remember, we had employee number and reports to. Those are the fields that we use to build the chart. And then finally, the other option is what fields are we bringing in? So by default, we bring in first name, last name, job title, and primary email, but we could bring in others. So if we wanted the phone number, for example, we just set that up here. And once we submit this, it's actually going to run the integration and create our chart for us. So this is something that Organimi's had for a long time. Most people use some sort of integration or import. This here's my chart with the 50 people. I have a theme. Okta doesn't have photos, but I like having photos in my chart. So even though this is imported, this chart has been imported and I have my people in here, I can import the photos locally if I have a zip file, and those will stay with the people even as the chart's updated. So I'm just going to show you that super quick. So I have a zip file in here and I've already got this set up. It's got everybody's photo. This one has a couple extras, but these are the people. Sorry, when you see this, you'll see that we have 54 photos, but only 50 of them are detected. I know I have 50 people. And based on this is how easy it is to get your photos into Organimi, even if they're not in your directory system tool like Okta. And then going back and looking at the chart, since we just updated those people, the charts look good. Just to show you a couple things, I'm logged in as Nancy. I have full access to this chart. I can see here that there's an integration. And if I want to look down here, just, expanding the chart, all these controls, here's the guy, Gordon Gulliver, we've been talking about. He reports to Franklin. We can, expand the chart. All these standard controls exist here. And if we were to try and share this chart right now, we would see that the SSO options aren't enabled because we haven't set up SSO. And we're going to do that in the next part of the demo. But I just wanted to show you that currently this isn't enabled. We could share it privately. We can invite specific people to have access to it, or we could share it publicly. We have public links now where you can add a password if you wanted to add a password, and a couple of different ways to secure those. So these are some of the new sharing options. I'll get into that a bit more in the next demo, but just kind of wanted to stop there. And this is a standard integration with Organimi in the first part of what we wanted to do. So if I go back here, we're finished with our API key. And if I go back to the presentation, we'll stop there and see if there's any questions that anybody wanted to ask at this point. Okay, so we're going to jump on to part 2 of the demo. This is where we show the new features. So we're going to show our SAML-based SSO integration. So single sign-on, if you're familiar with that, is Okta is probably one of the leading providers of that, but it's available with Microsoft Azure Active Directory, Google Workspace has it, Jump Clouds, OneLogin. Those are the ones that we have clients that are using it now. Even though we just released it a couple of weeks ago, we've had a lot of people moving into this. So it allows you to provision access to the application easily and directly from the app. So I'm going to show you quickly how quick this is to set up. There's another slide here. Again, any SAML-based SSO product, these are kind of the leader ones. It's going to take us 5 or 10 minutes to do this. And one of the things we'll do is force SSO logins. So this adds a level of security for people so that once you've set up your Organimi account to use SSO, then that's the only way people can access the account is by going through SSO. They can't log in with a username and password. So if you go back and you see that Nancy is logged into her Organimi account here, if she had more than one account, they would show up here in the account switcher, but you can see she's logged in with username and password. And once we enable SSO, that will change. So what she would do is go up here to her SSO settings, and these are the settings that we're going to use on the Okta side to set up SSO. It's all kind of right here. And then we'll come back and we'll configure the identity provider as Okta in the Organimi area. And jumping back over here to, I think that was it for the slide. Just wanted to check that before. Right. The other thing we wanted to show was the default sharing. So I showed you before that this wasn't set up. And once we get the SSO set up, we will enable the default sharing, and we'll come back and dwell on this a little bit before questions around here, because this is what is the new cool stuff in Organimi. So going back into Okta, if we go to our applications area, we'll see we have no applications set up. So we're going to start an app integration here, and this is going to be a SAML2 application, and it's going to be called Organimi. We have a logo that's available at a public link. I happen to have lots of Organimi logos, as you might imagine. And so that's set up, and now we jump into the next phase, which is basically copying those details over. So this is the single sign-on URL, which is referred to here as the callback URL. We copy that to our clipboard. We jump back, we paste that in here. Then the SP entity ID is the next one, which is just the app location. And then the default relay state, this is where you actually set up what the company name is. This is a JSON object. And this is actually the company name that you'll use for SSO sign-on. I'm going to tweak this a little bit. This is defaults to what your account name is in Organimi, but I do this demo a lot. So I'm going to change mine to 014. We use email address. And then we just have to set up a couple attributes here. This is pretty quick. Email, we want to use the basic format. And then this is what links, these are data fields from Okta, and this is what links them to the data fields in Organimi. So all we're pulling over for the identity process is email, first name, and last name. So user first, whoops, I did that wrong. User first name, and then last name, and user last name. These are called given name and surname in Azure Active Directory, but that's an obvious kind of things. And that's kind of the part we need to do on the SAML side, or sorry, on the Okta side. When we click next, this will tell us that, it asks us if we're adding an internal app. That's what you would check. I'm a software vendor, so I'll just check this for the demo purposes. And then this is active, right? So this is now people can single sign on once I assign it to them. So I haven't assigned it out to anybody, but before we do that, we have to set it up on the Organimi side. So we're going to jump over. Sorry, I forgot to grab something here. In our settings, what we want to look at is the I need to get the metadata out of this. And here it is. So I need to view the SAML setup instructions. So this is going to give me all the metadata I need to set it up on the Organimi side. And you can see down here is just a long piece of XML data that I'm going to copy. Sometimes you have to save this to a file, depending what system you're setting up. And then when I jump back over to Organimi and I do configure identity provider, I just paste this in here and it parses that data and kind of fills in all this detail for me, including the certificate details. And remember, I changed this to 014, so I want to set that up properly. And once I save this, now the configuration is complete. And so what's going to happen next is I'm going to click Force SAML SSO Login, which will insist that only people who have provisioned the app in Okta can actually log in to this account in Organimi. And when I do that, it's going to log me out. So once I push this, now you'll see that that's set, and now I've been logged out. It's redirected me to Okta, but I have not been assigned this application. So it doesn't log me in automatically. So I just wanted to show you that process. So I'll close that down, and I'll close that down, and I'll go back here to my dashboard. And these are the assignments. So I want to assign this out to a group of people, the people we showed early. So myself, I get that assigned to me. This is often referred to as provisioning the application. So I'm going to pick 4 people here that I want to provision this out to. Gordon was the 4th. And now these people are the ones who will be allowed to get into the Organimi app. So usually we'll provision it out to everybody, but initially you might want to provision it out just to a few admins to get started. And so now, if as Nancy, I'm kind of done the admin work. If I go back to my Nancy, just my regular view of Okta, and refresh that, you'll see that I now have this Organimi app here. So I can click on that, and that's going to single sign on me in. Sorry, I have to enter my 2FA code. One of the biggest benefits of using single sign-on is this 2FA, but makes the demo process a bit tedious. So bear with me a second here. And now I'm going to be taken right into Organimi, and I'll be able to see my chart if the live demo gods are with us here. This should come up. Just refresh that. And here it is. So here's the main chart. Remember, this chart was synced. This is the same chart I saw before. I can look at the integration. This is a sync enabled chart. Everything looks good. If I go back to the chart, you'll see that this is the same chart as before. And now the interesting thing is I have my sharing options enabled. So for this chart, I can now say SSO login does not imply any chart access, or I can give anyone who's been provisioned the app in Okta access to view the chart. So this is what I want to do here. And so I'll save that. And now the other thing I wanted to show you was back in my dashboard. If I go to my change account, you can see I'm logged in with SAML SSO and not username and password, because I did that Force SSO. And I can see here the SSO settings. This is my my settings, and the force is set. So now this chart is shared with anybody who's been provisioned in Okta, and I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to log out here as Nancy. Just before I do that, let me check my checklist to make sure that I showed everything I wanted to show. All right. And so I'm going to just log in from Okta as that random user. Sorry, I didn't log out there. Just let me do that. So Nancy is going to log out. And then I'm going to log out as Nancy on my admin panel. Close these down and log out as Nancy here. And now I'm going to sign in as Gordon Gulliver. So Gordon is just a random user in this Zengario company, and they have a password. And when since we provisioned them the app, they have Organimi here in their app tile page in Okta. They can click that and go right into Organimi. Once again, I need the 2FA code for the added security check, which I'm going to enter here. And now you can see that this chart is the only thing that's shared with me as a user. I can click into that. Comes up. Here's the view I saw before, but you can see I only have read access. I can't write anything to this. I can only read here. And if I wanted to find myself, for example, where am I in the chart? There I am. That will expand Franklin and show me as Gordon here, and I can use all the other Organimi things. So I just kind of wanted to show you all that. So that is the set it and forget it, right? I don't have to go back and do this again. Anytime the chart is updated, the integration will sync it. And anytime someone's added to Okta, they will have access to it once they're provisioned the app. So just as a side effect of you doing normal IT processes and putting people in your directory system, your charts will get updated and access will get updated. So this is kind of what we call default sharing. So setting it up to anyone who's provisioned via SSO can see it, and no explicit invites are needed anymore. And the access to the chart is then governed by the SSO provisioning or assignment. So that's the bulk of what we wanted to show you in the demo. And if there are any questions there, it looks like there are a few in the chat. Yeah, I can just read through them.
Yeah.
First one, I have a premium plan. However, I'm not showing that in my profile. It asks me to upgrade. So the SSO, we have to turn it on for you because it's still a new feature. We have to turn it on for each specific account. Once we get everything set up with the guides and make self-service available, then all the premium accounts will see it. So if you just send an email to support, we'll get it configured for you. The next question was, will we be getting something that goes over this, such as a leaflet for organizations? Yeah, we'll send out. There are some guides and some help documentation that we'll send out. But again, if you have questions, we can set up a call. Just reach out to support. And for SAML, the question is for SAML, how can I require a new login each time we have someone with shared computers and I don't want a cookie to log them in? So I don't actually know the question, the answer to that question. I think that is a question for your SAML provider. So one of the things that is the positives of using SSO is that we don't manage that access anymore from the Organimi side. That is managed by SAML. And once the application is provisioned, then that controls the access. So I think there's a way to do that, but you'd have to check with Okta or Google or whoever you use for SAML.
Awesome. I just got a couple questions also that got direct message to me,
Yep.
so I'll just read those to you. So one of them was, do you have documentation on SAML setup with Jump Cloud?
That's the one we have had 2 people set it up with Jump Cloud. We don't have the documentation complete yet, but we'll just set up a meeting with Parth, who's one of our members of our dev team, and he can walk you through the setup. Again, it's pretty much the same. There's one difference with Jump Cloud in the way that they set up one of those parameters. So we've been walking people through that process. So if you have somebody who's both the Organimi owner, account owner, and the Jump Cloud admin on the call, it's pretty easy to set up. But just reach out to support, and we'll set up a meeting to get that set up with you.
Great. And then we also got a question asking integrations are per chart and not organizations, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So you, for your organization, you would set up the integrations, and some people even they will integrate 2 or 3 times and set up filters for which actual chart they make. So they might want to make 3 different charts from one source file. So they'll set up 3 integrations and then set up filters by department or by whatever criteria that particular system that they're integrating with has, so that they can divide that out. We actually have a customer who has about 120 of those set up. So yeah, per chart. And then the sharing is per chart as well. Just one thing to remember, that when you share the chart, I'll show that in the next demo. But the chart is sharing is per chart. So you have one chart that's usually accessible to everybody, and then you'd have some other charts that you use for planning. If you're doing a reorganization or planning hiring, those you don't want to share with everyone. So those are then shared specifically with individuals.
Awesome. Thank you. I believe those were all of the questions for now.
Okay, awesome. So I hope that that was all clear to everyone now that the set it and forget it, we like to talk about it. So the integration is one part of that. Had that for a while, and then the provisioning through SSO, setting up SSO as the entry point, and the provisioning the app now allows anyone who's in those systems, if those are both ends of that, in some case you might integrate from your HR system, but use Okta or SSO for the access to the app. But in a number of cases, you'll use both of those tools on both ends, and as they're updated by your IT folks, then everybody's access kind of just goes along with that. And so for this part, we're just going to demo a scenario which is around organizational planning. So I talked about Gordon Gulliver. We're going to promote Gordon Gulliver, and then we're going to make his position vacant, and then we're going to backfill. We're going to create a new hire to backfill, and we'll show how that new hire instantly gets access to the chart and how the chart is updated by the integration. So I'm going to log in as a couple of different people here. So give me a second to do that. And so I'm going to start out as Abby. So Abby was our CEO, if you remember this. Abby's going to log into Okta because that's the only way she can get to Organimi. And while she's doing that, I'm going to go over here, and she's going to click through to get to Organimi. And of course, she's got a 2FA request. So I happen to have that right here. And now she's taken into the chart, and you can see, if you remember when we showed Gordon, it didn't have write access. So what we want to do is go down here to Franklin, and we're going to promote Gordon to accounting manager, and we're going to create this accounts payable clerk as a vacant role, and Harriet's going to move under Gordon. So the first thing we want to do is update this and create a new manager. But remember, this is a sync chart. Okay, so we don't want to disable sync because this one gets updated from the other system. So what we want to do is make a duplicate of this chart. So we're simply going to do that right here in the app. And this is going to be called our summer 2023 plan. And so I just wanted to kind of show you that process. So you've got the sync chart. If we go back here to our organization, we've got the sync chart, which we don't want to mess with, which shows that. And then here's the planning chart where we want to make our changes. So we're quickly going to go in here. We're going to create a new manager called the accounting manager. And we're actually going to put Gordon right into that role because he's getting the promotion. And then we'll go to Gordon's old role here, and we're just going to make that vacant. And say we wanted to hire somebody by the end of the month. So we'll put that in there in case we wanted that. And we also said we're going to put Harriet under Gordon. So we're going to drag her down as a peer of the vacant role. And now, so Gordon has been promoted, and he's got these 2 people reporting to him, one to be hired. And so now this is the plan. And remember, now this chart is different than the sync chart because this is what we're planning. So we could go up here to sharing, and you'll see that this is not shared with anybody through SSO. But if we wanted to share it, for example, if I wanted to share this with Benjamin, so if I wanted to share this with Benny or somebody else in the company, I can click their access here, and then I can just share it with 1 or 2 people in the company, and this will send them an email. If I don't want them to get emails, just tell them to go into the chart through SSO. This will confirm the invite. So I won't show that, but that's how you can do that process. I don't want to switch too many people here, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, hey, Nancy, check out this chart. I made this change. Can you execute this back in Okta or whatever your directory system is so that the chart gets, the sync chart gets updated? So I'm going to log out as Abby here. And then I'm going to log in as Nancy on Okta and make those changes. So I'll log out here. I'll log out here. I'll log back in here as Nancy and grab my password. And as Nancy, I'm going to have to go into the admin side of Okta. And I want to go into my people. So my people are here, and Gordon is the one who got promoted. So Gordon actually will have the same manager, but will have a new title, right? So we're going to that. If we scroll down, we'll see that accounts payable clerk becomes accounting manager. And we'll just remember that his employee number is 36 and his manager is 35, but we're going to update Harriet to report to 36 because she is now in Gordon's group. So we go back here to the directory, and we got Harriet right here. Interestingly enough, she's at the top of the queue. So she doesn't get a change, but she gets a manager ID change. So she goes to 36. And so that will actually change the hierarchy of the chart. And we'll see that in a minute. So now imagine this has all been updated and a couple of days pass and we go, okay, well, we've hired this new person. Their name is Marcus Mako, and they're going to be our new accounts payable clerk. So what we're going to do here is add a person in Okta. Again, when we hire somebody, this happens already because we're using this tool for all of our systems. And it's going to be Marcus 014 at zengario.com. And we're going to activate that now. And so he'll get an email saying you've been added to Okta. So we'll save that. Actually, we didn't want to add another. We just wanted to save that. And then what we need to do with Marcus is give him a title, right? So his title is accounts payable clerk. So we go in here and we add this as part of the setup. I need to click edit. And if you remember, we wanted him to report to Gordon. So he's got an employee number. So the next employee number, say that's 106. And his manager ID was 36 because that was Gordon. So now he's set up in the system. And one of the things that we want him to do is be able to use the application. So one of the things we want to do is provision an application to Marcus. So we'll assign the application here. And this will give him access to access Organimi. So when we save that, we see that now Marcus has these assigned applications under his he can access Organimi. So before we leave Nancy, what we want to do is go over to Organimi and execute the integration update. So if we click on Organimi, this will take us back to our login, and we're Nancy, so we need to enter our security code here. So let me grab that from the Verify app, 836 436. And now that I'm in Organimi, the chart integration gets updated every 4 hours. We check for updates, but since we don't want to wait 4 hours with you on this demo call, we can do a run integration, which basically will force the update. And so when we execute that, we can just watch the logs here. So refresh the logs, and we'll see that 12:38 this was updated. And now if we go to our chart, fingers crossed, we'll see that Franklin now has 5 people, and that Gordon is the accounting manager, Harriet is the accounts receivable clerk, and Marcus Mako is the accounts payable clerk. So this all got pulled from Okta and got updated, remember, because this chart is not editable. And so that's great. So that's what happens every day when you make changes to Okta. This will get updated every 4 hours. So one last piece to complete this, to complete the demo here, is to log in as Marcus and access the Organimi the Organimi chart to see who's who in this new company I joined as Marcus, and see that I've automatically been provisioned the app. So I'm going to close all this down, and I happen to have email over here. This is Marcus's email. So sorry, I switched tabs. This is just an email system at our hosting provider. Marcus Mako, again, is not a real person. And so here's what you would see from Okta when you get invited to Okta. And now he's going to say, okay, first day here, let's activate my Okta account. And I'm going to set up my password. So I got a password here, and then I'm going to set up my Okta Verify account. So you can't see this, but on my iPhone right now, I am scanning this QR code, and I now have that 2FA set up on my phone. And that, again, is one of the reasons we like using an SSO provider. And just as Marcus logging in, you can see I'm Marcus over here, and I'd have other apps, of course, but I've got my Organimi app here, so I can go, oh, I heard this is the org chart. Now, let me check it out. So if I click on Organimi, you can see, again, I only have this synced account. I can look at this. I can go, hey, wow, this is cool. I can expand this, see all the executives, and I go, am I in this chart? And I can find myself here. I go, hey, there's Marcus. That's right. I report to Gordon, and he reports to Franklin, and Harriet sits next to me. That's awesome. I met this person, Ophelia, at lunch today. I wonder what she does. Right there. So Ophelia, oh, she's a graphic designer. Cool. She's over here in the engineering group. So I can explore the chart now, and this is all a default because of the default sharing. So for a long time, Organimi users, not having to add someone with the view access when they join the chart is a big helpful feature in terms of time and hassle and tediousness. So this is one of the cool things about having an org chart that's in date, and then new hires can really explore this. We have the directory view as well. So for example, I could say, here's everybody. If I had phone numbers here, you'd see this. I can page through the directory view. I can sort, I can search this. So I want to search for Charles. Forgot the R. So I've got a couple of people with that. I can find them. And there's some cool things here with sorting. I could sort by first name, if I just remembered the person's first name, or by last name. We can group by. Again, I don't have any really good things to group by here, but if I group by job title, you'll see there's a couple of groups here where I have 3 people with the same job title, and I can sort through these. So these are some of the cool things you can do with the directory view in Organimi. And I can always go back to the chart view and do my searches, etc., and expand the full chart and see everybody and kind of zoom in as I need. So that was all just because I got provisioned the app over here in my Okta, and that happens to everybody once you've got this SSO set up. So that's kind of all we wanted to go through in the demo, and showed you sort of the set it and forget it process. We showed you how to set up an SSO integration as well as a regular integration. We showed you how to set up SSO for sign-on and provisioning. And then we showed you the value of having the always accurate org chart for new hires who just sign up and they're instantly have access to the shared company chart. So one of the questions I see was the provide details of the SSO providers that we support. So theoretically, we can support any SAML-based SSO provider. We have set up customers with Okta, a Microsoft Azure Active Directory, Google Workspace supports SAML-based SSO. Jump Clouds and One Login is the one we're currently working on. I think though that probably covers about 98% of the providers of SAML-based SSO, but there are some others. I think in some of the larger corporate applications, there are some other SSO providers. But just reach out to us if you have one that we didn't mention, and we will work with you to get it set up and make the changes needed to make that work. We are encouraging everyone who's on a premium plan to use SSO because it does provide that additional layer of security and centralizes the IT operations. So if you're in HR, a lot of times the IT folks will love to hear that it's an application you want to use that's SSO enabled, so they can just set it up and manage it that way and don't have to worry about access. You as the Organimi account owner don't have to worry about inviting people by email or sharing specifically with people as the roles change. It's just set up once and then it works from there. So were there any additional questions? Just a quick recap. We talked about, I said it 100 times, the set it and forget it on kind of having an always up-to-date org chart. The ease of setting up a SAML-based SSO, it's pretty straightforward. We don't have it enabled by default, but if you want to use it, please reach out to support and we'll get it set up for you right away. And then some of the cool things you can do with organizational planning and some of the other more advanced use cases on what you can do with your org chart.
Great. Well, thank you, Brett, for those great demos. I'd like to thank everyone here for joining. If you left any questions in the chat that didn't get answered in the webinar, support will reach out to you with a response. Or if you just thought of a question now, you can leave that in the chat and we'll get back to you. I do quickly just want to mention that we love hearing about the user experience of our community. So if Organimi's helped your organization in any way, we'd highly appreciate it if you could just leave a quick review on G2. It only takes a couple minutes and it helps us reach and help other organizations like yours. So I'm just going to leave that link in the chat for everyone to access. Last but not least, we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So be sure to follow us there to keep up with the new product launches and the feature updates. Thank you once again for joining, and we hope to see you next time.
And check out the Huddle TV on YouTube.
Yep, lots of video tutorials on there.
We'll go there, and there's lots of other tutorials, and we'll be adding the SSO setup tutorials as we get them done.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great Wednesday, and we appreciate you working with Organimi and being a customer.